LSS coordinates the UN response to the opioid crisis. We support member states and especially law enforcement officers to better identify opioids, for example, fentanyls. And we protect them and we train them.
The opioid crisis is affecting families around the world. That's why the United States is proud to support the work of the UNODC lab and other programs to fight against this crisis. The work that the lab does is critical to stopping the flow of opioids and other drugs into the United States.
We do mainly drug analysis so that law enforcement officers and forensic scientists are able to identify and detect drugs. We also cover crime scene investigation and security document examination. And in the background, we do a lot of monitoring work so that we're able to analyze the trends in terms of drugs and especially synthetic drugs.
Over the last 5 years, the United States has contributed over $12.5 million to the UNODC lab to fight against the world drug problem.
We are very thankful to all our donors, including the United States, because they support us and help us to move forward and expand our work. One specific way that we helped member states was a training funded by the US. And we supported border control officers to use a drug testing device for them to be able to detect and identify fentanyls.
So the lab monitors and coordinates the opioid strategy. One of the biggest projects to come out of the opioid strategy was the Synthetic Drugs Toolkit, which essentially gives member states tools to fight against the opioid crisis.
We cover all member states. For example, our publications are sent over to over 120 countries. If you look at the drug and precursor kits that we sent to member states, we are covering more than 90 countries. And in terms of quality assurance, we send samples to over 90 countries.
The work that the UNODC lab does has consistently been on the forefront of the synthetic drug issue. So they're categorizing not only the synthetic drugs, but also the precursor chemicals that are being used to make the synthetic drugs, and really sounding the alarm for governments about that.
We sent out reference materials of drugs so that member states and forensic scientists are able to expand their skill sets and properly identify drugs, especially synthetic drugs and opioids.
The world is in the midst of a drug crisis. We've seen the number of people using opioids double over the last 10 years. The potency of drugs is continuing to increase as the price continues to decrease, and they're more accessible than they ever have been. These synthetic drugs are the main driver of these staggering numbers of opioid deaths in the United States. This is not just a problem in the United States. This is a complex global problem that requires international cooperation.